Alright, it's time to talk about another Russian movie. And just a heads up, this I might be covering some Russian movies for the next couple days in a row. So yeah, it's possible that the entire, like all 5 weekdays this week are probably going to be Russian movies. But, yeah, so this is the the 12 months. So, before I start, I would like to talk a little bit about, I already talked about how, the most of the Russian movies I've seen so far seem kind of devoid of personality, and they are improving. The last movie I watched, Enchanted Boy, was, had quite a bit more personality, and this one also seems to be developing that, but but there's two other things I'd like to kind of add to my list of nitpicks with these movies. One is that because of the animation style, the rotoscoping and everything, the characters can move rather slowly at times, and well, even beyond that, I think a lot of the scenes can get pretty wordy. They start dragging on and on as the characters are just talking and talking. That's a bit of an issue for me, and yeah, there were like one or two scenes in this one that had that problem as well. Another little issue I have is that these Russian fairy tales that they're all based on is, well, they're, I think they're a little overly complicated, like they're kind of cluttered in a way, like the stories are just a little cluttered. So yeah, I don't know. They got these little fantasy elements, and they can be interesting, but I think they might put in a little too much. I mean, I'm criticizing some really old stories from another country, so probably shouldn't make a difference to me. But I don't know. It's just a little something that I've kind of been picking up on while watching all of these movies from Russia. But yeah, this movie's improving on, making the characters a little more interesting and stuff, but, just like the other one I watched yesterday, but, yeah, it still kind of has some issues with, like, pacing and, just a straightforward story. It's just a little too much going on. So, if I can pick up as much as I can from the plot here. So it's about this girl who, well, basically, the story is there's this really young queen, probably like 12 years old, and she is just a horrible brat. She's given she's given like a thing that she has to sign, and she decides whether this guy gets let off or executed, and I don't know what the guy's crime is, I forget if they even say it, but she has him executed just because it's easier to spell. She's a lot like, the main character of Enchanted Boy, only even worse. Like, she orders for, her work to be easier, and, her tutor puts up with her crap all the time, and, he follows all of her commands, and, and then he, tells her about, all the months of the year and how things kind of progress over the seasons, and talks about the snowdrops that grow in April, right after the snow melts in March, and she decides she wants some snowdrops now. Like, yeah, even though it's the end of December going on January, she wants snowdrops immediately. So she makes an order for somebody to go out and find some snowdrops for her, and even though they're not even growing in yet. And then, so yeah, that's where our main character girl comes in. Her cruel stepmother and equally cruel stepsister, because I haven't seen that before. They send her out into the cold to find snowdrops because the queen is offering like a reward of a lot of gold, and obviously the stepmother and stepsister are like super greedy. So yeah, they send the girl out to find some snowdrops for the queen, and so along the way the girl comes across the 12 months, and they're represented as like these as a bunch of guys who they're all of like different ages apparently. Like, well, it's kind of confusing actually, because like let me see. So the spring months are represented by young boys, and then I guess the summer months are supposed to be teenage boys, but they don't really look any older than the spring ones. The fall months, I guess, are supposed to be, the fall months are grown men, and then the winter months are like old men. And January seems to be the head of the group, although February seems to be the oldest. I'm guessing it's December, looks like he's in his 50s or 60s. And then, hold on a second. I'm sorry, I'm kind of wiping my spit off the screen. But the weird thing is, like, April, first of all, I think I heard them say that he's the youngest, even though March comes before him, so shouldn't he be the youngest? Ugh. And then what's more, April actually looks and sounds like the oldest of the younger, like, he looks and sounds like a teenage boy, so shouldn't he be the oldest? It's so confusing, I don't know how this works. It's just, like, do months take other months' place after they, like, does every year one month passes on and gets replaced? Let's see. So yeah, she asks the months to help her find some snowdrops, and then April comes in and yeah, he kind of messes with the forces of nature, and then she manages to get some snowdrops, and and then there's a scene afterward where they create this big snowstorm, and it's interesting, but at the same time, I don't know what the point is. It doesn't seem to lead to anything. Well, actually, I guess it's to make the snowstorm heavier, even though it was kind of already happening before. I don't know. So yeah, the girl gives it to her stepmother and stepsister, and then they bring it to the queen, and then the queen decides she wants to find like the lake where they apparently found it, but they say that they didn't find it. They tell her that they confess to her that they sent the stepdaughter out, and then she's outside the gates. The queen gives them 5 minutes to bring her in, and then the stepdaughter runs away, and then they go after her. The stepmother and stepsister don't get executed though, but the queen finds the girl, and then she starts threatening to freeze her outside, basically, because she's first she gives her this coat to try and bribe her to lead her to the lake, and then when she refuses, she starts taking some things off. So it's kind of like she's threatening to have her freeze to death or something if she doesn't. And then she finds the ring, and when the girl still refuses, she throws the ring onto this frozen lake, and then the girl. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the rings. So yeah, April gave her a ring, and he tells her that a specific way she can summon him, and it starts with her throwing it on the ground. So because the queen throws it on the ground, the girl still can summon the months. So they help her out of the situation, and then they kind of mess with nature some more, and the queen and her subjects and the step relatives experience this year rapidly going by. They see spring, and then it turns to summer, it gets all hot, and then they're caught in a thunderstorm, and then when it turns to summer, they gotta take their coats off, but then it gets blown away in the thunderstorm, and then it turns to winter, they start freezing, and then I don't know, they encounter the months, and then the months give them each a wish, even though they don't really deserve any kind of wish, but yeah. Basically, they all just wish that they could be warm again, in different ways. But yeah, the stepmother and stepsister get these fur coats, and then they start fighting each other, and they turn into dogs. And then, yeah, they all meet back up with the girl, who has this nice new outfit, kind of looks like a queen, if you will. And then, there's this thing that if the dogs behave themselves well enough in 3 months, then they'll get turned back into humans, and the queen does not get punished. That's kind of an issue I have with this, is that, the dogs, the stepmother and stepsister, obviously they're not, they kind of get what they deserve, because they did send the girl out to begin with, even knowing that snowdrops shouldn't even be growing yet. Tell her not to come back until she gets some, because they're greedy. So yeah, they're nasty, but I think the queen is 10 times worse, because she's threatening to execute everyone around her, and she practically, she threatens to freeze the girl outside. Yeah. Plus she's annoying. Her voice is really shrill. I mean, she's kind of entertaining at the same time, but she's annoying, Her and the stepmother and stepsister are all kind of entertaining, but there's. But yeah, I think they let her off a little too easily, and I think, it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that the stepmother and stepsister do get punished. They get a traditional fairy tale punishment. But yeah, they're not quite as bad as her. But they seem to get their comeuppance because they seem like the more traditional villains. The queen just seems like this misguided, or they play the queen off as this misguided young girl, Whereas the stepmother and stepsister, you expect them to be bad. that's kind of an issue I have with some stories, is when they like kind of select their villain, even though there's somebody else who's arguably worse. I can't think of any other examples right now, but I might come across some as I go on through these movies. Um, but yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say in terms of the story, but yeah, it's still got some entertaining stuff in it. Like I said, the queen is hammy. She's shrill, but she's also kind of entertaining. And then, yeah, the stepmother and stepsister are pretty entertaining as well. There's also a pretty funny joke where, right after they send the girl out to get the snowdrops, it shows the girl freezing in the snow, and she says something along the lines of, "I can't go much longer," and then it cuts to the stepsister, and by the way, she's like this fat little girl, and she like eats a lot, and she says the same thing that the girl just said, because she ate too much. So it's like, it's one girl is legitimately freezing to death, and then the other girl says the exact same thing as her because she ate too much. So yeah, that's a pretty funny joke. But still, yeah, I thought this was an interesting movie, but it's it's got some flaws, and the story is very cluttered, as most of these Russian stories are. Let's be honest here. Justice isn't served that properly, and it can get kind of confusing at times. So yeah, there are elements of this movie that I like, but I still got a few issues with it. So it brings it down to maybe like a 6 out of 10. So still a decent movie, just not up to the standards of some of the other Russian movies, to say the least. So yeah, I'd still say I like Enchanted Boy more. It has some elements that I've been complaining about with these Russian movies, like maybe some minor hints, but like the story keeps going in that one. It doesn't seem to drag. But yeah, it's still got some of those Russian fairy tale clutter, cluster F, if you will. I'm trying to keep my videos PG. That was an entertaining movie. This one had entertaining elements to it, but it had flaws, which kept me from fully enjoying it. So yeah, if you're interested, though, feel free to check it out. If you're a fan of Russian animation, or these old school animated movies, anything like that, feel free to check it out. But I think there are better movies even from Russia. So yeah, I guess that's it. Mash it and smash it, signing off.